Ambassador Krelvos stood in the observation chamber of the Galactic Council station. His four eyes watched the stars outside the massive window. Behind him, representatives from 12 different species whispered among themselves. They were all waiting for the same thing. They were waiting for the Terran commander. The war had lasted for 3 cycles. The Vorkan Empire had attacked 17 colony worlds. They had destroyed cities. They had taken prisoners. They had shown no mercy to anyone. The Galactic Council had called for help from every member species. Most had sent fleets of hundreds of ships. The Zethrani had sent 400 vessels. The Moliakar had deployed their entire navy of 600 warships. Even the peaceful Sylvan had contributed 50 medical frigates. But the Terrans had sent only 1 ship, one single warship called the Prometheus. Krelvos remembered the anger in the council chamber when the Terran response arrived. Ambassador Thelvok from the Zethrani delegation had slammed his fist on the table. He had called the Terrans cowards. He had accused them of abandoning the alliance. The other representatives had agreed. They had demanded explanations. They had threatened to remove humanity from the council. Then Commander Sarah Chun had walked into the room. She was small by galactic standards. Her species had no natural armor, no claws, no venom glands. She carried no visible weapons. Her uniform was simple and dark. But when she spoke, the entire chamber fell silent. "One ship is enough," she had said. "One ship has always been enough." Nobody believed her. The Vorkan Empire had the largest military force in the known galaxy. Their fleet numbered over 10,000 warships. Their soldiers were bred for combat from birth. Their weapons could crack planets in half. How could one ship make any difference against such power? The answer came at the Battle of Nexer Prime. Krelvos had watched the battle recordings 100 times. He still could not understand what he had seen. The Allied fleet had gathered near the mining planet of Nexer Prime. 800 warships from 7 different species. They had formed defensive positions around the planet. They had prepared for a long siege against the incoming Vorkan armada. The Vorkan fleet arrived with 2,000 ships. They emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of angry insects. Their weapons began charging immediately. Their formation was perfect. Their confidence was absolute. Then the Prometheus appeared. It was not a large ship by any standard. It measured only 400 meters in length. Its hull was dark gray with simple markings. It had no obvious weapons platforms. It looked almost primitive compared to the elegant Zethrani cruisers or the massive Moliakar dreadnoughts. Commander Chun had broadcast a simple message to the Allied fleet. "Stay behind us. Do not engage. Observe only." The Allied commanders had protested. They had called her arrogant. They had refused to follow orders from a single human. But something in her voice made them hesitate. Something cold and certain. The Vorkan fleet opened fire first. Thousands of plasma beams streaked across the void toward the Prometheus. Energy weapons that could melt through the strongest shields in the galaxy. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Prometheus did not dodge. It did not raise shields. It simply moved forward. Every weapon hit the hull directly. The flash was blinding on the sensors. The Allied fleet expected to see wreckage floating in space. They expected to see the foolish humans pay for their pride. Instead, they saw the Prometheus emerge from the fire completely undamaged. The ship had absorbed every attack like water flowing over stone. Not a single mark appeared on its dark hull. The energy readings made no sense to any scientist watching. It was as if the attacks had simply vanished. Then the Prometheus returned fire. Krelvos remembered the silence that fell over his own bridge. He remembered the cold feeling in his stomach. He remembered thinking that he was watching something that should not exist. A single beam of white light erupted from the front of the Terran ship. It was narrow and focused. It seemed almost gentle compared to the violent Vorkan assault. But when it touched the lead Vorkan dreadnought, something impossible happened. The dreadnought simply stopped existing. There was no explosion. There was no debris. The ship did not break apart or burn. One moment it was there, leading the enemy fleet. The next moment it was gone. Every atom had been erased from reality. The space where it had been was now empty and cold. The Prometheus fired again. Another ship vanished. Then another. Then 3 more. The Vorkan fleet began to panic. Their perfect formation broke apart. Ships tried to flee in every direction. Their commanders screamed orders over open channels. For the first time in their history, the Vorkan military knew fear. Commander Chun spoke calmly to the Allied fleet. "Please keep observing. This will not take long." It did not take long. In less than 1 standard hour, 2,000 Vorkan warships had been completely destroyed. Not damaged, not disabled. Destroyed at a molecular level. The Prometheus had moved through them like a farmer harvesting crops. Systematic, efficient, merciless. When it was over, Commander Chun had sent another message. "Nexa Prime is secure. We will proceed to the next target." The Allied fleet had followed in stunned silence. The war lasted 3 more weeks. The Prometheus traveled from system to system. It destroyed every Vorkan military installation. It eliminated every enemy fleet. It did not take prisoners. It did not accept surrenders. It simply removed the threat with cold precision. The Vorkan Empire, which had terrorized the galaxy for generations, ceased to exist as a military power. Now Krelvo stood in the observation chamber, waiting for Commander Chun to arrive. The war was over. The peace treaty would be signed today. But the real purpose of this meeting was something else entirely. The door opened and Commander Chun walked in. She was wearing the same simple uniform. Her face showed no expression. She nodded politely to the gathered ambassadors. "Commander," Ambassador Thelvok said carefully. His voice was very different now, much more respectful. "We have called this meeting to discuss something important." "I know why I am here," Commander Chun said. "You want to know about the Prometheus." The ambassadors exchanged nervous glances. They had prepared speeches and diplomatic approaches. But Chun had cut straight to the heart of the matter. "Yes," Krelvo said. He stepped forward slowly. "We need to understand. How is such a weapon possible? Our scientists have studied your ship for weeks. They cannot explain anything they saw. The energy readings make no sense. The physics are completely unknown to us." Commander Chun smiled slightly. It was not a warm smile. The Prometheus is not unique. We have 12 ships exactly like it. Each one is assigned to a different sector of space. The silence in the chamber was heavy. 12 ships, each capable of destroying entire fleets. The implications were terrifying. "But we only deploy one at a time," Chun continued. "And there is a reason for that." "What reason?" Ambassador Thelvok asked. Commander Chun walked to the large window. She looked out at the stars for a long moment before speaking. "Humanity learned a hard lesson long ago. On our home world, we developed weapons that could destroy everything. We built bombs that could end all life on our planet. We came very close to using them against each other. Very close to ending our own species." She turned back to face the ambassadors. "We survived. But we never forgot that fear. When we reached the stars and found that we were not alone, we made a decision. We would build weapons that would ensure our survival. Weapons that nobody could challenge. But why only deploy one ship?" Krelvos asked. "Because one ship is a warning," Commander Chun said. "One ship says we are capable of destruction, but we choose restraint. One ship shows power without appearing aggressive. If we deploy your entire fleet, every species in the galaxy would unite against us out of fear. They would see us as conquerors, not protectors." She paused and looked at each ambassador in turn. "But one ship? One ship can be explained as a simple contribution to an alliance. One ship seems almost humble. One ship does not threaten anyone until they threaten us first. Ambassador Thelvok shifted uncomfortably. This seems like manipulation. It is diplomacy, Commander Chung corrected. We could have built 10,000 ships like the Prometheus. We could have conquered the entire galaxy. But that is not what humanity wants. We want peace. We want trade. We want friendship with other species. The weapon exists to protect the dream, not to replace it. Kralvos thought about her words carefully. The logic was strange, but it made sense. Humanity was showing strength through apparent weakness. They were proving their peaceful intentions by holding back their true power. It was a strategy that no other species had ever considered. What happens if one ship is not enough? Another ambassador asked. What if you face an enemy that your single ship cannot defeat? Commander Chun smiled again. This time, the smile reached her eyes. Then we sent 2 ships. The ambassadors understood the message clearly. Humanity was not threatening them. Humanity was offering protection. As long as the alliance remained peaceful and respectful, the Terrans would continue their policy of restraint. But if any species made the mistake of attacking humanity directly, the consequences would be absolute. The peace treaty was signed 1 hour later. It included a new provision that nobody discussed publicly. Earth would maintain permanent alliance with the Galactic Council. In return, 1 Terran warship would patrol each major sector of civilized space. Just 1 ship per sector, nothing more, nothing less. The other species quickly learned to appreciate those single ships. Pirates avoided any system where a Terran vessel was stationed. Hostile empires kept their distance. Trade routes became safer than they had ever been. The galaxy entered an era of unprecedented peace. Centuries later, historians would study this period and call it the Terran Peace. They would write books about how one small species from an unremarkable planet had managed to stabilize an entire galaxy without firing more than a handful of shots. They would discuss the brilliant diplomacy and the careful balance of power. They would admire the restraint and wisdom of the Terran leadership. They would call humanity the perfect peacekeepers. But deep in the archives of every major species, there was a classified file. A file that was never shared publicly. A file that contained the original footage from the Battle of Nexa Prime. And every military commander who watched that footage understood the simple truth. Humanity had not become peacekeepers because they loved peace. They had become peacekeepers because nobody in the galaxy had the power to stop them. Commander Chung retired from service at the age of 82. She spent her final years on a quiet colony world, tending a small garden of earth flowers. When journalists asked her about her legacy, she always gave the same answer. I did what was necessary to protect my people. That is all. When she died, representatives from over 200 species attended her memorial service. They came to pay respect to the woman who had shaped galactic civilization, the woman who had shown them that true power was not measured in the size of your fleet. It was measured in knowing exactly how much force to use. And humanity had always known that one ship was exactly enough.